Hello all. Today I am introducing to you the concept of applets in Java programming. So what is an applet? An applet is nothing but a smaller sized Java program which, just like any other Java program, creates a bytecode upon compilation. And this bytecode can be executed by any Java supported web browser, or you have a specialized dedicated software which is called an applet viewer. Okay, so when it comes to an applet, what happens is there can be two types of applets. There are local applets as well as remote applets. So let's discuss about local applet. Local applets are those applets which are created inside your program, inside your machine, your local machine, and is executed within your local machine. You are not sharing it with anyone else. In that case, such applets are called local applets, and these applets will be given partly a permission to access your operating system resource. On the other hand, a remote applet is those applet which is created in some other machine and it is transferred to your machine using a web page, or you can say you use internet to transport a remote applet from its original source machine to your machine. And if you have a Java supporting web browser, this web browser will execute the applet for your purpose. So that is remote applet. Now when it comes to remote applets, such applets will never be given any higher level of access to your operating system resources. They cannot be given access to use your operating system resource. They cannot be given the permission to modify any file, or even they cannot access the language libraries. Okay, so next we'll discuss about what is the main difference between an applet and an application. Okay, so an application is a bigger program, or you say a larger program, which can launch its execution by itself, and this is done using a main method. Now when it comes to an applet, it doesn't have a main method. That is one of the primary difference between an applet and an application. Applets will never contain a main method. Okay, so how will you launch an applet? It is not a standalone application. It will always require either an applet viewer or a Java supported web browser. Okay, so I have listed some of the main differences between an applet and application. So one is that an application can be launched from any machine which contains a Java runtime library, whereas an applet will need the support of applet viewer or a browser. Then applets will never be given a larger access to the underlying resources, whereas an application can access almost all the resources of the underlying computer. Then applet applications will normally be executed with the help of 5 main methods. Okay, there will be 5 methods to support the execution of an applet, and you are not supposed to add any more methods into it. If you want to add any more methods, then you have to use it as part of the implementation of all these 5 methods. Whereas application will be having a single point of starting it, and that is normally the main method. Okay, so let's see the 5 methods of applet coding. So these are the 5 methods which is available in the applet class, and you can see it is init method, start method, stop, destroy, and paint method. So init method is responsible for initializing and creating the applet. Start method is responsible for making the applet under execution. Stop method is used for taking the applet out of the execution and suspending its execution. Destroy method will take the applet out of the memory, and paint method is used for any kind of display that has to be done via the applet. So these are the 5 methods. Okay, let's see how to write and execute an applet. So there are 7 basic steps for executing an applet. So first one is that you will have to create your own applet code, and that is nothing but a .java file. Then the next step, you will have to compile it and convert it into a .class file, or what you say, the bytecode. Okay, then the next part is that since you are going to use it based on a web browser or an applet viewer, both are taking in as input which is an HTML file. So you'll have to create an HTML file. Okay, so you'll be creating an HTML file using the HTML tags, and inside that you will add a tag called Applet Tag. Inside the Applet Tag, you can add your .class file. Okay, inside your Applet Tag, you can add your .class file. Then you will be saving the HTML file and you will be inputting this HTML file either to an Applet viewer or to a web-based browser for testing the code. This is the 7 steps in writing applets. Okay, so applet class is inheriting from all these classes. Okay, applet class is inheriting from the object class, which is in turn inherited by the component class, which is in turn inherited by the container class, and panel is a subclass of the container class. Applet is inheriting from the panel class. So this is how the hierarchy of inheritance comes in for an applet class. Let's see the life cycle of an applet in detail. So as you can see in the figure, this is the life cycle of an applet. So using the init method, an applet enters into a state called newborn state. Okay, that is, it is ready for execution. When it is under execution, it has to come to the run state, and start method will change the state of an applet from newborn state to run state. If you have any mechanism or anything to execute, then you'll have to use the pain method. Remember, a pain method will never change the state of an applet. It will continue to be in the run state itself. So, if in any case you have to take the applet out of execution, suppose if you are using a web browser and your user has gone from that tab to some other tab, in that case the applet will stop executing and it will go to an idle state. This is done by invoking the stop method. Okay, so when the user comes back to the web browser tab, then in that case you will use the start method again to resume the execution of applet. So stop method, pain method and start method can occur multiple times in the life cycle of an applet. So if the applet has completed its execution, it can be taken out of the memory. In that case, you will use the destroy method. First, you will call the stop method to take the applet to the idle state. Then from the idle state, you will invoke the destroy method to make the applet dead and it will be removed from memory. So that is about the life cycle of an applet. So as I said, init method and destroy method will occur only once in the life cycle of any applet, whereas start method, stop method and pain method can execute for multiple times. So that is about the life cycle of an applet. Now let's see how to program an applet. So as I said, you will have 7 steps for executing an applet. So first one is that you will have to create a .java file and you will have to compile it to become a .class file. Now before completing your HTML file, you will have to use a pair tag called the Applet Tag to include your applet code. Okay, so as I said, it is a pair tag. Okay, so this will tell the browser a name of the applet to be loaded and also the space required. Okay, so you will see how to use the applet tag in detail. Okay, and the applet viewer will execute each applet tag that it finds in a separate window. If you are using an applet viewer to view the applet, in that case, if you have multiple pairs of applet tag inside your HTML file, multiple windows of applet viewer will pop out for you. If in case you are using a web browser to display that web page, then multiple applet tags will all be executed inside the same page itself. That is the difference between applet viewer and web-based browser. So this is the whole structure of the applet tag. As you can see, it has some optional attributes and required attributes. Okay, so let's see all these in detail. So those starting with a square bracket indicate optional attributes, whereas those written without a square bracket indicates required or mandatory attributes. So as you can see, code is a mandatory attribute, width is a mandatory attribute and height is also a mandatory attribute. Okay, so if you are including an applet tag, then you will have to for sure ensure that code attribute, width and height attributes are mentioned inside the applet tag. Then, if you have any parameter to be passed to your applet code, then you'll have to use the param tag for passing the attribute. That is done using this particular structure. Okay, so you'll use the param tag along with the name of the parameter and its value. You will be using a get parameter method in your applet code to receive any arguments which is passed using the param tag. Now, let's see all of these attributes in detail. First one is code base. It is, as I said, it is an optional attribute. Here, you will be specifying the URL of your applet code. This is in the case of a remote applet normally. Okay, so when it comes to code, here you have to specify the .class file name which is to be loaded into the applet viewer or the web page. Okay, so this is the required attribute and you're specifying the .class file here. Alt, it stands for alternate text. In case if you have to specify something else when the required attribute of applet code is not found, in that case you can use an alternate text. It is again an optional attribute. Okay, so if you have any alternate text, you can use it. Then next one is name. Name stands for naming the instance of that applet. If you have to specify any particular name for that instance, in that case you can use the name attribute. Width and height is a required attribute. You will be using the width and height attribute to set the dimension of your applet window. Then align is an attribute which is used to align your applet window. If you want to align it to the center or to the left or right, you can use the align tab. It is again an optional attribute. Now you have something called vspace and hspace. Vspace stands for the vertical space and hspace stands for the horizontal space. Vspace is all about the space to be left above and below your applet window, whereas hspace stands for the space to be left in the left and right of your applet window. So that's all about the various attributes of an applet tag. Now let's see how to run the applet. If you want to run the applet, as I said, you will have to use either an applet viewer or a Java supported web browser. Okay, so if you are using the applet viewer, this will be the syntax. You will have to type applet viewer space what is the name of your HTML file .html. Okay, let's see an example. So here I have a .java file which is a hello world.java. So it is nothing but to display the hello world string in your applet window. So I'll explain this in detail. You are importing the applet class as well as the graphics class. This is because the paint method accepts its argument only as a graphics object. That is why you are importing the graphics class. Now here the hello world is extending the applet class. So you can see all the methods that are described inside the applet class will automatically be inherited into your hello world class. Then here you are writing your own implementation for the paint method. Okay, so public void paint graphics G. This is your graphics object. So G is your graphics object. Okay, using the G object, you are trying to write a string and you have a method called drawString which displays the string at the required position. Okay, so hello world comma 50 comma 25 says that you are going to display the string starting from the XY position 50 25. So here you have the string at 50 25 position. Now this is your .java file. This will be compiled to form a .class file and that will be included inside your HTML page. So this is your HTML page. As you can see, inside the body there is an applet tag which says applet code is hello world.class, which is the compiled version of this one, and with the width which is 150 and a height 25. So this is the height and width of your applet window. Okay, then you are closing the applet tag. That's all, and you are loading into the applet viewer hello world.html. So you can see applet viewer is displaying hello world.class, which is the actual applet code. So that is how it is done. Then you have some methods to set the background or foreground colors of your applet. If you want to set the background, then you can use this particular method which accepts a color object as its argument. And if you want to set the foreground, in that case you can use this method which is accepting again a color object as its argument. You can set these two methods as part of either the init method or the paint method. I'll show you examples. So as you can see in this particular program, here you have an implementation for the init method where you're setting the background to be as light gray. Okay, so this is the syntax. So you are setting the background to be as light gray, which means when the applet is started, automatically the background color will be set to light gray. Inside the paint method, you are using the foreground. This can be used again inside the init method itself, but here we are using inside the paint method, and you're setting the foreground color to be white, and you are setting the color of your text as blue, and you are drawing the string hello world at the position indicated by 3180. So this is how you use the display methods inside an applet. Now, if you have some changes to be done in the already displayed applet code, in that case you will be using a repaint method. Repaint is nothing but a method which invokes a call directly to the paint method so that the output gets changed. So you have two ways by which you can use the repaint method. One is that you can use it without any argument. In that case, the entire applet window will be re-displayed or updated and re-displayed. If you have only a particular region to be repainted, in that case you can use this particular method implementation where you specify the top left XY position along with the required width of your region and the height of your region. So there are two methods by which repaint method can be called. Now what happens when a repaint method is called? When a repaint method is called, it will automatically invoke a method called update method. Update method will automatically invoke the paint method. So what happens? Your paint method will be again invoked with a new content to be displayed. Okay, so I'll show you another example where you have applet along with some event handling features. So here you are having an applet which automatically is connected with some event handling mechanism. So you're importing the .awt package, then event package along with applet package. Then this is the applet code which will be included inside your HTML file. This is just used here as a comment to understand it better. So you have the code as check.class, which is the compiled version of this particular class. Okay. Then inside this, as you can see, it is extending the applet class. So all the methods will be automatically inherited. Then it is also implementing an interface, which is a key listener interface. Okay. So this is an interface which helps you to handle events related to keyboard. It can be key pressed or key released or a key typed. Okay, so here you can see you have a null string which is termed as message. Initially it is set to empty. Okay, then inside the init method you are invoking a registration call to the key listener interface. So you are registering your listener. Okay, so add key listener with the current object, that is this. Okay, then you are creating your own implementations for the methods key pressed, key released and key typed, which is available inside the key listener interface. So key pressed, what you're saying, whenever a key is pressed, you'll have to show the status as key is pressed. When a key is released, you will have to show the status as key is released. Then when the key is typed, now here is where a repaint method comes into the scenario. Here you can see when the key is typed, it is accepting a key event, right? So I'm going to press the key H. Okay, I'm going to type for hello and I'm pressing H. So what happens? Key H was pressed. So it is notified that key was pressed. And I am getting the key at the character. That is by this particular method, get key char. So I am getting the character as H. It is appended to your message. Okay, so now message was initially empty. Now message becomes H. And you are calling the repaint method without any argument, which means the whole of your window gets repainted. Next, I am going to type for E. In that case, again, status shows as key was pressed. Then when I release my hand, it will say key was released and the character is read and it is appended to message, which means message now becomes HE. This happens for the entire content of hello. Okay, and what happens when the repaint method is called? Repaint method will call the paint method, and the paint method is drawing the string message. So whenever there is a change in the content of message, it will be done using repaint. So you can see just like you are typing inside a text box. Okay, so that's all about the concept of applet. We have covered quickly what is the life cycle of an applet, how do you program an applet, how can you write the HTML code, what is an applet tag, and how can you perform event handling along with an applet. So I hope this video was an insight for you to the concept of applets. If you have any doubts, please refer and use my comment box. Thank you.